Hello everyone, good day. I'm Michelle Wayan and today I'll be going to present to you our historical critique about Wenceslao Iritana in Philippine history written by John N. Schumacher. In this report, my partner is Shara May Andales. However, I'll be the only one to present this since I think there's a connection problem kay Shara. But anyway, she already gave me her part, so I'll be the one to share it to the class. She was assigned sa introduction and summary while I'm assigned naman sa critical evaluation and conclusion. So without further ado, let's start. The chapter Wenceslao Iritana in Philippine History, written by John N. Schumacher in his book entitled The Making of a Nation, Essays on 19th Century Filipino Nationalism, was published in 1991, which aimed to assess and acknowledge the works of Iritana as a Philippine historian in relation to his contribution to the Philippine historiography during the late 19th century. This paper would include merely on the social context and determine both positive and negative evaluation to further identify the strengths and weaknesses of Schumacher's work. As a summary of the chapter, the author made various sections to further explain the role of Iritana in the Philippine historiography. It is composed of 10 specific sections, mainly his discussion pertaining Iritana's role as a polemicist, Iritana as a historian, as a bibliographer, as a political backer, and a sole publisher, in addition to the reconciliating the Filipinos through his scholarly historical works, as well as his judgments regarding Iritana's strengths and weaknesses in its place in Philippine historiography. The purpose of the article is for the Filipinos to distinguish and understand Iritana as a subject of most contradictory judgments, both as a human and his achievements as a Philippine historian. Based on the context, Iritana published the biography of Rizal between 1906 and 1910, where he collected information and documentations to various sources which contributed a lot to Philippine historiography. Still, it is used as a relevant sources for some researches, documentations, as well as an evaluation based on how the author interpreted the evidences. Critical evaluation part, it is clear that the chapter being reviewed clearly illustrates the issues and recognition of Wenceslao Iritana in his place in the Philippine historiography. Then, in the first section, it is good that the author described Iritana's life, enabling to trace his personal background, which greatly shaped and influenced its political and historical works, which can feasibly help to determine the possible cause of its actions, the results of the works of Iritana as a polemicist. Then, on the second until the fifth section of the chapter, he unmasked the bias of Iritana to its historical documents due to its political connections that clearly mold Iritana's point of view, in able to gain personal recognition and gratification regardless of the issues being thrown due to its unjust way of writing its historical works. And on the same page, Schumacher sums up different issues regarding the biased works of Iritana as a historian that could possibly influence the mind of its readers, as well as the reason behind its decision, which is mainly because of its personal motives and desire for self-glorification. Then, for example, sa statement nga makita dito sa chapter, it is said that Ritana's deep sense of patriotism as a Spaniard runs through his career, which can be found on page 152, and it points out this statement is one of the main reasons as to why Ritana decided to disregard the accomplishments of the Filipino nationalists during his time, that was detected and explained by Schumacher, which turned to be a strength of his work. On the other hand, another good thing there is the author, who is John N. Schumacher, never judges nor condemned Ritana based on its work. Instead, he highlighted the importance of Ritana's role in the Philippine historiography despite its lapses and weaknesses as a historian. Rather, he recognized Ritana as someone who made an impact in the writing of history, as well as by recommending a right way of assessing and judging a particular historical work. However, I had noticed that Schumacher was mainly focused more on the weaknesses of Ritana as a historian, based sa mga biases and lapses ni Ritana, since he wants self-glorification. So, I can say that the absence of the author's assessment regarding Ritana's good writings and a good place in the Philippine history made it clear that this is the weakness of Schumacher's review. As a conclusion, this chapter is a very straightforward, a good read, delivers a good information, having a clear purpose. Through the use of historian's personal background, it became more better and clearer to identify some of the possible reasons as to why Ritana decided to neglect the Filipinos' hard works in assimilating with Spain. Aside from that, organizing the writings into different sections is a good way to make it more comprehensible. On the other hand, it should be important to include not just the lapses of a particular historian, but also his positive contributions as a writer, if there is any. Overall, the work is interesting to read, since it clearly unmasks the weaknesses of Ritana in terms of depicting its unjust works, in addition to giving us knowledge, introducing us to various historical works that were not recently well known but contributed a greater value to our history. And as a reporter who were assigned in this topic, we highly recommend this book for you to read, for us to be aware and understand how these pieces of works contributed to our history. Finally, this is the reference of our report. Thank you so much for listening and watching this video, and I hope that you've learned something from what I have discussed. Thank you so much and God bless us all.